Okay, ma'am. Before moving on to communication interface, let me explain you what are the serial communication schemes that are available. So you all be knowing that what exactly the communication means. Communication means data transferring. That can be receiving of data or transferring of data. I mean, sending of data, either transmitting or receiving. So the transfer of data between two devices is nothing but a communication. So when such kind of communication is happening between the two devices, that can be, those two devices can be of different types, or those two devices can be a part of any other major device. When the communication is happening, how exactly the communication will happen, and what are the schemes that the communication protocols will follow, that will be explained by these communication schemes. So totally we have, when we are talking about especially the serial communication, where exactly serial communication means the data will be transferred bit by bit. Data transfer will be in a bit by bit manner. Say for example, if there are 8 bits of data, if the data consists of 8 bits, then first bit should move on, and then second bit, and then third bit, and then fourth bit. That means D0 to D7, all the bits needs to be sent one after the another. But if we talk about parallel communication, there from D0 to D7, consider the same data of 8 bits, D0 to D7, the 8 bits can be sent at a time. But here our concentration is on serial communication. That means bit by bit transfer. So whenever the data is being transferred in a bit by bit manner, that is nothing but when you are opting serial communication to transfer the data, then there exist three different types of communication schemes. And those three are nothing but simplex, half duplex, and full duplex. They are nothing but simplex, half duplex, and full duplex. And by looking at the name, you can get something into your mind. But look at these pictures so that you can easily understand what exactly those schemes are going to explain. See here, these two diagrams, indicates the simplex communication scheme. These two diagrams indicates the simplex communication scheme. That means whenever a communication is happening with the help of simplex scheme, whenever a communication is happening between two devices with the help of simplex, then that can, in that particular communication system, either transmitter can send data to receiver, or receiver can send, sorry ma, here the arrow mark will be reversed, just give me a second. Okay, so what exactly simplex communication means is that the data transfer can be either from transmitter to receiver or from receiver to transmitter. Keep this point in your mind. Simplex means there will be only one way of communication, and that one way can be either from transmitter to receiver. At the beginning, if the data is transferring from the transmitter to receiver, till the end of the completion of the communication, the data should be transmitted from transmitter to receiver only. Or else if the receiver is transmitting the data, that means if the data is transferring from the receiver to transmitter, see this arrow marks indicates that the data is transmitting from transmitter to receiver. Here TX means transmitter, RX means receiver. So here if the data is transferring from transmitter to receiver, this is how the simplex scheme is going to be. And if the data is transmitting from receiver to transmitter, if data is transmitting from receiver to transmitter, then this is how the simplex scheme will be. So here only one way of communication, either from transmitter to receiver or from receiver to transmitter. That is what about this simplex. And if you move on to the half duplex in the sense, see this is the diagram that represents the half duplex communication scheme. If you see here we have double arrow, that is nothing but in half duplex the communication can be from transmitter to receiver, at the same time receiver to transmitter. But here the condition and the difference between these two is that here only one, Either the data should transmit from transmitter to receiver, or it should transmit from receiver to transmitter. But here at a time, the data can be transmitted from transmitter to receiver and receiver to transmitter. But the difference is that as here there is only one single line. Of course, it has a double arrow mark, but there is a single line. What does that indicates? First, transmitter will send the data to receiver. When transmitter is transferring data to the receiver, in that scenario, receiver cannot send its data to the transmitter because it is a single line, and on that single line, the transmitter has already sent the data. So that line will be carrying the data sent by the transmitter. So once after receiver receives the data, then the receiver can transmit the data using the same line to the transmitter. That means using this single line, both can communicate with each other. Using a single line, transmitter and the receiver can communicate with each other. But when one is transferring the data, other should wait till the transfer of that particular data. So that is why it is named as half duplex. Duplex in the sense, data will be transferred, data transferring will be supported by both transmitter and receiver. Duplexing means transmitter can send the data, at the same time receiver can also send the data. But what exactly half duplex means? Half duplex means when one device is transferring the data, other device cannot transfer the data until the data sent by the first device is transferred completely. So that is about the half duplex. And if we move on to the full duplex, see, this is the diagram which shows the full duplex communication scheme. So if you see here it has two lines. You can see that one red line and one black line. So transmitter will send the data to the receiver using the above arrow mark, while transmitter is sending the data to other device parallelly can send the data to transmitter. See here only one single line is there. So that is the reason until one device completes its transmission, second device has to wait. But here the second device need not to wait. When one device is transferring, the second device can also transfer the data at a time, because here two lines are available to transfer the data. Here only single line is available. Two devices can communicate, but only single line is available. So at a time, two devices cannot communicate with each other. One device should be in wait mode till the completion of data transfer by the another device. But if we move on to the full duplex, in this full duplex mode, at a time, both the devices can communicate with each other, as it has two lines to carry the data. So that is why it is called as full duplex. So this is what all about the serial communication skills. And next, moving on to the serial communication standards. Serial communication standards. Here standards are also called as protocols. Standards are also called as protocols. What exactly the protocol is, or what exactly the standard means? Here the protocol mean to say that the rules and the regulations that are to be followed by the communication interface. Serial communication standards or serial communication protocols, what they are saying is that there are some set of rules and some set of regulations where each and every communication interface should follow while it is transferring the data from one device to the another device. So here there will be two types of serial communication interfaces. Here there will be two types of serial communication interfaces. One is onboard communication interface and another is external communication interface. I'm repeating once again, there exist two types of serial communication interfaces. There are two types. One is onboard communication interface and another one is external communication interface. Onboard communication interface, external communication interface. So what exactly this onboard communication interface? If that communication is happening between the devices of a system, if the communication is happening between the devices of a system, that means there exists an embedded system, wherein which an embedded system means there will be multiple devices which are being connected on a single chip. On a single chip, there will be n number of devices. So if the communication is happening between the devices which are on the same chip or which are on the same device, then that is called as onboard communication. And this onboard communication is also known as board level communication or device level communication also. I'm repeating it once again. Onboard communication interface means if the communication is happening within the devices which are on the same board or which are on the same system or which are in embedded systems. Embedded systems means if n number of systems or if n number of devices are connected on a single chip, then that is called as embedded system. So if the communication is happening within the embedded system, or in another way, if the communication is happening within the devices which are on the same chip, then that is called as onboard communication interface. Whereas this onboard communication interface can also be called as board level communication interface or device level communication interface. So the best real-time example for this onboard communication interface is nothing but automobile industry. Like car, you can consider a car. Nowadays everything is automatic, that is coming up as a feature in the car. If you see, whenever some accident happens, that means when something hits the car, then the air balloon is happening, I mean the air balloon is opening automatically. That means the sensor which senses that pressure, it is going to send one information to that airbag that yes, it is the time for you to open because some pressure is on me. That means that sensor is within that car and airbag is also within that car only. That means here in this case, the car, the automatic system within that car is considered as an embedded system. Here sensor is there in the car itself and the airbag opener will also be in the car itself. So the sensor who feels the pressure from the outside, that is sending an information to the airbag opener. But where are these two? The airbag opener and the sensor who is feeling the pressure, both are within the car only. That means it is happening within the embedded system only. So this onboard communication interface is widely being used by the automobile industry. And technically, if you want to know about what are the onboard communication interfaces, these are all the examples for the onboard communication interface. One is I2C, or we can even call it as a I2C, and another one is SPI, and next is UART, and next is a one-wire interface. So these are the most widely used onboard communication interface. The real-time example is just now I have explained you. If you consider a car, within the car there exists an onboard communication interface. And next, and another type of interface is nothing but external communication interface. Another type is external communication interface. So by looking at the name itself, you can come to know what exactly it means to say. If the communication is happening between two different devices of two different systems, if the communication is happening between two different types of devices of two different systems, then it is called as external communication interface. Then it is called as external communication interface. The best example and the live example that we are using with this external communication interface is nothing but Wi-Fi, a Bluetooth. So here Wi-Fi is called as external, Bluetooth is called as external communication interface, and there will be LAN, local area network. You might have all seen that in the laboratory. LAN, there will be a LAN cable between the router and to this particular what we call computer. So these are all the external communication interfaces. Wi-Fi, a Bluetooth, a wireless LAN, these are all nothing but the external communication interface. So by looking at the examples itself, you can understand what exactly the external communication interface is that. And this external communication interface is also having another name, that is nothing but product level communication interface. It is also called as product level communication interface. So this is what all about the serial communication standards. So I'll just brief you once again about this particular type. There exist two types of serial communication interfaces. One is the onboard communication interface and another one is the external communication interface. If the communication is happening within the devices of a same system, or if the communication is happening within the embedded system, then that is called as onboard communication interface. And this onboard communication interface is being used widely by automobile industry. It is being used widely by automobile industry. And moving on to the external communication interface. External communication interface means if the communication is happening between two embedded systems or two different devices. If it is happening between two different embedded systems or two different devices, then it is called as external communication interface. And the best real-time examples are Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, wireless LAN. And technically, what do they use in Bluetooth or in wireless LAN or in Wi-Fi is nothing but RS-232. See here, RS-232 USB. You're all well known with this USB, because you will be connecting your pen drives to your laptop or to your computer through this USB only. So these technically RS-232 and USB are the external communication interfaces which are being used by the real-time examples what I have told you just now, like Bluetooth and Wi-Fi external. So this is about the serial communication standards. And now we have I2C, SPI and UART from onboard communication interface, and we have RS-232 and USB from external communication interface in your syllabus. So totally we need to discuss about I2C, SPI, UART and RS-232 and USB. So we need to discuss about these 5 types of serial communication interface as per your syllabus. And now we'll be discussing about the I2C. We'll discuss about I2C, where I2C is the onboard communication interface. I2C is nothing but onboard communication interface. What exactly this I2C stands for? I2C stands for inter-integrate circuit. I2C stands for inter-integrate circuit, and it is being developed by the Philips, a well-known and well-established industry. Electronic industry, electrical industry is nothing but the Philips. So this I2C, it is being developed by the Philips. And coming to its features, this I2C, which is also called as protocol, we can simply call them as a protocol. Coming to its features, this I2C, it will be supporting half duplex. It supports the half duplex schemes. That means both the devices can communicate with each other, but not at a time. So that is how this I2C is supporting the, I2C will support the half duplex. And next, it is having two buzz lines. It is having two buzz lines. They are nothing but, one buzz line is nothing but SDA and another buzz line is nothing but SCL. One is SDA and another one is SCL. These are the two buzz lines of I2C, or in another way we can say that it is a two-wired interface. I2C can also be called as two-wired interface. Why it is called as two-wired means as it has two buzz lines. And what is the what does this SCL and SDA stands for? SCL means serial clock, SDA means serial data across the device. SDA means serial data across the device. SCL means serial clock. And next, this I2C supports 8 bits of data. It supports 8 bits of data. That means it can handle a data of 8 bits, and it will be supporting both master devices as well as slave devices. I2C can be connected to both master devices as well as slave devices. What is master and what is slave, I'll explain you in today's class itself. But as of now, as a feature, you just remember that it can be connected to both master as well as slave. And we can connect nearly about 127 devices to I2C protocol. That means I2C will support a maximum of 127 devices, 127 devices. But the condition is that whatever the devices that you are connecting to I2C, each and every device should have unique address. Each and every, as it supports 127 devices, the each and every device should have a unique address for the proper communication purpose. And of course it will also support multi-master support. And most widely in real time it is being used by the sensors. In real time it is being used by the sensors. You might have all know sensors. There will be a temperature sensors, there will be a humidity sensor, there will be a fire detect sensor. Whatever be the name, if there is a word called sensor, that means if a sensor is being connected to any embedded system, then in between that embedded system and that particular what we call sensor, there will be an I2C. So this is what all about the, the features of the I2C. And here I told you that it can be connected to master device as well as it can be connected to slave device. So who are called as master devices and who are called as slave devices? See here, we are talking about the microcontroller, 8051 microcontroller. So here 8051 microcontroller is called as a master device. 8051 microcontroller, of course that can be anything, the number can be anything. So the heart of the communication system, whomever is the heart of the communication system, they are called as master devices. That means what do these master devices will do? They'll be controlling the entire operation of that system. Whomever will control the entire operation of the system, they are called as masters. And in the real-time world, the controllers or the processors, they are being called as the master devices. That means they can start transfer of data, they can stop transfer of data, they can initialize the communication, they can release the bus controlling signals, whatnot. Whatever the controlling signals that they have, they can make use of all those controlling signals. And coming to the slave, that means whomever requires the service of master, whomever requires the service of master, or simply whomever follows the commands that are coming from the master, they are called as slave devices. Let me repeat this once again. Master will have the control over the entire system. That means master will release the commands, and whomever follows the commands, they are called as slave devices. They are called as slave devices. So here, whatever the devices that you are connecting to the microcontroller, all those devices are called as slave devices. And the microcontroller who has to work for the each and every interrupt that has been coming from the nearby devices, that is called as a master. And here, if you look at a simple diagram of this I2C, see here, it has, as I told you, it has two bus lines. One is SCL and another one is SCA. So here SCL will be generating the clock that is required to trigger the I2C, and SDA, that means this particular bus line, it will be controlling the transfer of data. It will be controlling the transfer of data. Here I have considered one master device and two slave devices. I have considered one master device and two slave devices. And for the proper functioning of this I2C protocol, the two lines, that is nothing but a serial clock generator and a serial data transmitter across the device. These two lines needs to be pulled up. That means they needs to be connected to VCC with the help of some external pull-up resistors. And what happens if these pull-up resistors are not there? If these pull-up resistors are not there, then the internal circuitry, it will be floating its value from 0 to 1 and 1 to 0. That means it neither stays at 0 and it nor stays at 1. It will be floating it between 0 and 1. That means 0, 1, on and off, on and off, on and off. It won't be on for continuously and it won't be in off mode continuously. So that kind of state, we call it as a high impedance state. So in order to overcome that high impedance state, here we need to connect some external pull-up resistors. These pull-up resistors are not inbuilt for this I2C. So these pull-up resistors needs to be connected externally. So by connecting SCL and SDA to the VCC with the help of external pull-up resistors, we are assuring that the functioning of I2C is going smoothly. And now, how exactly the functioning will happen? So what I told you, the master will be sending the commands and the slaves will be following those commands. So how exactly the data transfer will happen with the help of I2C is nothing but initially master will send address of the slave. Master will send address of the slave with whom, I mean, it wants to send some commands, or with whom it wants to have some data transfer. As there will be n number of slaves that I mean, as I told you, I2C will be supporting 127 devices. So out of all those 127 devices, major will be the slave devices. So each and every slave device will have its own unique address. So master will first send that address. So by sending that address, that means as it sends the address, the I2C, it will identify the slave. Here we have slave number 1 and slave number 2. Just assume that address of this device is 1 and address of this device is 2. So whenever this master device sends an address of 2, then this I2C will be connected to the second device, because 2 is the address of slave 2. And soon after it sends the address, next it will be sending the operation. That means either master device wants to read the data from this device, or it wants to what we call write the data to this particular device. So reading and writing. So if it is sending along with the address, if master is sending 1, if master is sending a bit value of 1, that indicates that master wants to read. If it is sending 1, that indicates that master wants to read the data from the slave 2. And if along with the address, if master is sending 0, that indicates that the master device wants to write some data to the slave 2 device. So the first thing is that it will be sending the address. So soon after the bus I2C receives the address, it identifies to which device the address is related to. So it will be identifying one device. Say for example, it identified that the address sent by this master is this thing. And next, once if this device is being identified, next master will send either 1 or 0. If master is sending 1, that indicates that master wants to read data from this particular device. And if master is sending 1, that indicates that master wants to write some data to the slave device. And next is that the I2C bus has to wait for the acknowledgement from the slave. That means even though it is a slave, it might be the slave for another device also. It is a one of the slave for this master 1, and this can be a slave for another device also. So here master has to, I mean, this I2C has to wait till it receives an acknowledgement from the slave. So once if it receives acknowledgement from the slave, that indicates that slave is free now. That indicates that slave is free now. So once if I2C receives the acknowledgement, then whatever the operation that master would like to have, that operation can be completed. And to indicate the slave that my operation is completed, master will again send the acknowledgement to the slave through I2C bus. So for you, it might be little bit clumsy, but let me give you clarity over how the operation is going to be happen. First, master will send the address. Master will send the address. I2C will identify the slave to which that address belongs to. Next, after the identification of the slave, master will say about what exactly master wants to do. That means either master wants to read the data from the slave, or master wants to write the data to the slave. That will be sent by the master. How the I2C understands whether it is a read operation or a write operation? If master is sending 1, that indicates that it is a reading operation. And if master sends 1, that indicates that writing operation. So as of now, slave is not involved in these 3 steps. In first step, identification of slave is done, and in second step, what is the work that master is having with this slave, either reading work or writing work, that is done. And next, it should receive an acknowledgement from this slave that I am free. So once if I square C receives the acknowledgement, then the reading or the writing operation can be performed between these two devices. And slave does not know whether the slave work, I mean whether master has finished it work with slave 2 or not. So to identify the slave that master has completed it works with you, then to identify that, I mean to intimate that, master will be sending what we call acknowledgement. So here two acknowledgements will be happening. One acknowledgement will be from the slave to I square C, which indicates that slave is free, and the another acknowledgement is from master to the slave, which indicates that master has now no work with you. Once if I square C receives acknowledgement from the master, then the communication transfer is going to stop. Then the communication transfer is going to stop. See here, whatever I have explained, all those things are there in this. So first, in order to what we call start the transferring, in order to start the transfer of data, first thing is that the clock should be pulled high, and SDA should be low here. So SCL should be high and SDA should be low. And next, master sends the address of slave to which it communicates and data valid during high state. What these are all things that I have explained. So here the master will be sending the address. Once if the slave is identified, then master will send either 1 or 0, where 1 indicates that master wants to read the data and 0 indicates that master wants to write the data. And then it will be waiting for the acknowledgement from the slave. So once if the acknowledgement from the slave is received, then master will send or receive the data through this SDA. Master will send or receive the data through this SDA. And once if the data transfer is completed, once if the data, as I told you, I square C will be supporting 8 bits. And if that 8 bits is being transferred, if they are being transferred either from master to slave or from slave to master, then there will be an acknowledgement from the master by saying that the data transfer is completed. Once if the acknowledgement from the master is being received, then I square C is going to stop its operation. So this is what all about the I square C protocol or the I square C communication, serial communication interface that is being used most widely in the automobile industry.